let's do it. Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome you to our regular council meeting for August the 10th. And so we'll like to call it to order. And first order of business is adopting the minutes. 2.1, could I have a motion, please, on, I guess we have two motions there. So this is the first one, that the special and regular council meeting minutes, et cetera, be adopted. Seconder, thank you. All in favor? Thank you. And number 2, that the record of public hearing, et cetera. Mover? Thank you. Councilor Barkwell. Councilor Holmes, all in favor? Thank you very much. So we're, resolution to adopt the agenda. Any changes to the agenda, corporate officer?
There are no changes.
No changes? Thank you. So we're good there. Motion to adopt the agenda, please. Councilor Barkwell, Councilor Traynor, all in favor? Thank you. We're moving straight into delegations. Sergeant Lacroix, would you please, moving right along.
Moving right along. Evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. I think in front of you were given the 2 quarterly report. So we're kind of in the,
Mike's not.
I was gonna say,
Oh, it was in the agenda.
you have a good voice, but we could make it better.
Remember the one with the colors?
Oops.
We're high tech.
That's good. One of the first lessons of presentation.
Testing.
I'll have to lower my voice now. I think you were given the copies of the 2 quarterly reports. If I'll run through our manpower issue that we're having right now in Summerland. We're down 2 constable. We have a sergeant, a corporal, and 7 constable on strength in Summerland, with 2 municipal employees assisting us with front desk and taking complaints. At the present time, we have Constable Marsh, Janice Marsh, who's presently on mat leave. I'm glad to tell you that she gave birth to a daughter last weekend. So we're really happy and glad for her. Mom and baby are doing fine. And then we have Constable Mitchell, who decided to take a leave of absence and then to run his farm in Summerland. So we're down 2. We have 1 member that's been named as a replacement to Constable Mitchell. His name is Constable Muzzerall. He's coming out of Terrace. And then he's been trying to sell his house since April. So it's been a little bit difficult for us to manage with our resources, but the members have done well. The stats that you see, and you'll see a big increase if I run you through our stats there on theft from vehicles, mostly property crimes that have gone up. And I think it was quite apparent throughout the South region, from Osoyoos, actually from Princeton all the way up to West Bank. There's been an increase. And I don't know what could contribute to this. Obviously, we in a transient, there's a lot of transient movement throughout the valley. And when I mean transient, I'm not talking about our fruit pickers transient. I'm talking about a criminal element that moves from Kelowna to Summerland and back and forth. We were successful. I think you'd recall we had a big increase in mail thefts, so that's part of these stats. Ourself and then with the assistance of Penticton, we're able to apprehend an individual in Summerland. And there's multitudes of charges that went ahead. Sometimes our frustration with our system is these individuals get released. So we see once we target a group and then an arrest is made, stats go down, they get released, the stats starts going up again. So we're working in conjunction with Penticton to see if we can target some of these individual. Sometimes it's difficult, like I say, because they move from north to south, but we're working on that. In regards to some of the highlights during the past 6 months, Constable Marsh and Constable Lefebvre are our DARE officers for the school, and completed the program with, I believe, I think I got that in the stats, I think we had a graduation of 120 students, I believe, from the middle school. So that was great to see Constable Marsh being able to do our entire program with Constable Lefebvre. It's well received in the middle school, and it's a program that we hope that we'll be able to continue in Summerland. I'm part of the community involvement. I'm part of the Child Youth Committee that we attend from September to June. And that has become a provincial goal to, and you'll see that on my second quarterly report, there's a performance in regards to vulnerable people that's becoming an emergent and a priority for the province, and that includes elderly, youth, and then people with mental health issues. So we're working, in addition to attending these meetings with the Youth Council, the Youth Committee, there's also a committee in Penticton that is encompassing the entire region regarding these issues. We had a good Action Fest weekend, no real issues, no problems, and it went really well. So I was really happy about that. There was, the dance went fine. There was no big issues for us for that weekend. Not included in the report, and you may have some questions regarding this, is the events of the long weekend where Summerland got targeted, and we had 4 businesses in Summerland that were hit for a break and enter. We're working with an agency to the north, because we're still under investigation, but West Bank got hit hard that night too, and we believe that these events were associated, in the event that you had some questions, because it's not part of this report. And I think that's it, if you have some questions.
Council, any questions of Sergeant Lacroix? Councilor Parkwell.
What about the Crime Stoppers program? Do you continue to get lots of tips through it, or?
The coordinator's changed now. He used to be Sergeant Al Sisme used to be the coordinator. Now Sergeant Delabert retired, and then he took over the program. We get, I would say, maybe 1 or 2 tips a month. Yeah.
And how actionable are the tips usually? I would say, because I don't want to, there's certain things I can and cannot say, but I would say that it would be, we act on about 1/3 to half of these tips that we receive. And is the funding sufficient?
I don't know. You know, I'd have to bring, that'd be a question that I'd need to ask the coordinator. They've never asked me for funding, so I imagine that it's still, they have good funding.
You haven't heard any complaints?
No.
Councilor Traynor.
I was just noticing that the theft from vehicles was up. Does that happen in a certain area in Summerland more than others, or is it kind of the same everywhere?
In the summer months, it's the beaches. And it's interesting, actually, because in talking with our local media, I was reminding people, because we attended, for example, I think it was 3 weeks ago, where we had a couple of cars stolen and a number of vehicles entered. And I know that we live in a nice community, Summerland, but like I said to John here, is
It's like you got to remind people that you need to lock your doors in your vehicle. And then when we attended these scenes and when we talked to the registered owner, the keys, the vehicles are left unlocked and the keys are the ignition. So it's like a big sign say, "Steal me." And it's hard to prevent that. And it's a very simple thing to lock your doors, lock your vehicle at night, and then don't leave your laptop and your iPhone in plain view. Because a lot of time it's an opportunity crime. They'll walk by and I mean, we do have a large transient population and then a lot of tourists and whatnot. So it's simple step. Close your window, lock your doors, and then don't leave your iPhone and laptop on the front seat of the car. So, yeah, and then sometimes you get spiked like that, as people walking the streets, but there's no specific area. I would say the beaches in the tourist area in the summer months, those decline in the fall because we get less people around.
Councillor Peak?
Yeah, I notice under other thefts, I'm wondering what that includes.
That'd be a shed, that'd be,
You mean theft out of a shed on a property?
that's right, yes, yes. Anything that's not a residence or vehicle, shoplifting is separate. So it'd be, like I say, a shed or an industrial area and
So
whatnot.
it might be related to a property.
That's right, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I just wanted to ask you, you know, your reference to working with vulnerable people. I find it, you know, it's interesting that you've got a pretty detailed involvement with other parts of the system, so to speak, to address that, because it seems to me that where we see difficulties in relationships with the RCMP, a lot of times it's with people that have mental health problems or drug problems that may not be recognized, and they're dealt with in a manner that may not work out, you know. So is that really, you know, giving you some positive results working with others on that?
I would say
file?
it's positive and it's frustrating.
Okay.
It's positive because we're there to help these people. It's frustrating because sometimes we are not the right people that these individuals need to deal with.
Yeah.
And then we're working lots with the mental health unit at the Penticton Hospital because it's becoming more, we are involved in more on a daily basis with these individuals that need help. Unfortunately, we're not the group that should be dealing with these individuals. Like once we deal with them, they should be getting support from other agencies. And I think, and I'm not going to get politics here, but there's fundings, cuts here, there, and everywhere, and I think that's started to affect these individuals. And then we're ending up being the one dealing with them. And that's why it's a priority, because we need to connect and build relationship with these agencies.
Yeah, I guess
to
that's
better-
what I was implying, that it appears to me that, you know, you are doing that. And I
Yes.
think that's about the only way to kind of, in a positive and rational way, to deal with it. is to-
Exactly.
Because you have to have a relationship with the agencies, and you may become more knowledgeable of even the individuals, so to
Yes.
speak, that are out there that you may run into due
We're-
to your relationship with those agencies.
Yeah, and we're actually getting to know them more and more
Yeah.
than all, and that's why we're trying to build these relationships with these agencies, so we can be better prepared when we deal with them as to who they need to be in contact with.
Yeah, I'm sure it's extremely difficult, but
Yeah.
it looks like you're trying to address it in a
Yes.
positive way, yeah. Any other questions, Councillor Peak?
If I may, Mr.
Yes, of
Mayor,
course.
prompted by your discussion with Councillor Lacroix, in dealing with mental health issues and those referrals are made, are there stats collected on those referrals by yourselves or the agencies? Because those are the things that create evidence for increased funding or a better role involvement or whatever might be an impacted outcome.
And I think that's why it's becoming a provincial priority for us through all the detachment, so that we can keep better stats now on these things. I don't have the stats readily available with me here now, but I think they're starting to compile them. And it'll be interesting to see, like, how many of these cases we deal annually, and then what happened to these individuals.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll be interested in seeing what that rollout is and how those stats come forward.
Okay?
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you.
You're
Thank you,
welcome.
Sergeant Lacroix. Appreciate the report and the detail that's there. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So we'll move on to potential for, that's number 6, public commentary opportunities. Anybody who wishes to speak on any highlighted items in our agenda is now free to do so, and you have, must identify yourself, and you have 2 minutes to address the agenda item you wish to.
Mr. Mayor, staff and council. My name is Michael Haller. I live at 1010-5 Prairie Valley Road. I understand on 13-2, we have an appeal on the animal control bylaw. I'm proud of my daughter for pushing this a bit, rather than just caving. For last year, this council, this community, has looked at ways not only to preserve food sustainability in this community and provide opportunity for its residents, but to look at our global carbon footprint, see how that affects us. And each individual in this community has a responsibility to address that. Many of us just sit back and we say, you know what, I'm going to go to the grocery store and I'm going to pick up my food. And yeah, it's going to cost me today maybe $5 to get down there to the grocery store because gas is $1.40 a liter. I'm not going to care that that egg that I just bought was actually laid in the Fraser Valley and got trucked all the way up here, and then it was stuffed into a grocery store where it was put under refrigeration with some more environmental impact, and then I had to go pick it up and then I go home. We have a community, as a community, spoke to that matter. I believe that as a community, we stood up and we said, we need to start thinking about this. We need to start finding better ways. I understand that, you know, this will be coming up to council hopefully in the next few months. I think it's important that sometimes there may be it's important that people stand up and say, you know what, this is right. This is what's good for the community. And let's bring it to those that have that decision-making capability, rather than going downstairs and talking to staff, and they just are understandably have to read from a bylaw and say this is what we need to do. I hope that we all look at this seriously, because this isn't just today's problem. This is a problem that we'll be looking at not just for our present group here, but for those that follow us. That my grandchildren are learning that there's better ways, that we need to start thinking about it. We need to start thinking about not just food sustainability, but global impact, our carbon footprint, how we do things. I think that's very important. And that my daughter and her husband have taken those children and they're showing them possibly the way we're all going to have to live in the future. So when you make this decision tonight, I want you to think about those things. I want you to think that there are inconveniences in life. I don't like my neighbor's little dog barking, but it's their right to have that pet, and therefore I put up with it. I don't like bicycles on the street all the time because they're out in my way and they make me stop and they make me swerve into the other lane sometimes. But you know what? It's their right. In this case, I believe that's not only today's right, but it's going to be the right of the future. And that we really seriously have to think about the decisions we make tonight, because it's going to impact our future, and it's going to impact not just the way I think about it, it's going to impact how future generations think about decisions we make. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Haller. Is there anybody else like to speak to any of the agenda items, please? Yes, sir.
My name is Jim Lay. I live beside my neighbors here, and we have the chicken problem. About three weeks ago, they, unannounced to us or the council, just brought in a chicken coop sort of thing, set it up, and put 3 or 4 chickens in it. And we have to sit there and look out off our deck at this and listen to the noise, which isn't too serious, and listen to the smell, or have the smell and problem with the chickens. And it's not only that, there's dogs running around that many complaints have come up with, and it doesn't get addressed. There's a mess around their house. It's just a junkyard, and it's frustration. And I live by rules, and I got a house that's worth $350,000, $400,000, and I'd like to keep it in that condition. And there's people behind me that just built a new duplex, and I'm sure he wants to get a good dollar for his property. And we had we seen some people there looking at it the other day, and they stood in the front deck and looked down. Oh, they got chickens. So I'm sure he lost a sale because of that, or could have lost a sale. And we got another 30, 40 people in our neighborhood, and there is rules that they can't have unlicensed vehicles, and they can't have mobile homes, and can't have domestic or farm animals, and we abide by them, and we just hope everybody else abides by them too. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Hi, I'm Juanita Lay. I'm at 8230 Pierre Drive, right next to these people. The problem we have with the chickens also is coyote problem. We've had many coyotes just this past spring outside our house. Now, there was a chicken farm on the other side of the hill from us, and every time they butchered, you could hear the coyotes, and you knew exactly when they were butchering. Now, we got chickens next door. We have small dogs, and I'm terrified to let my pups outside at night by themselves, even in our little fenced area, because the coyotes are coming around, and you can hear the coyotes every night. And I'm terrified when they're right outside my house. In the bylaw, it says no poultry in a residential area. Now, like my husband says, we abide by the laws. Now, we respect the laws also, but our neighbors, I'm sorry to say, we try to get along with everybody, but I find it very disrespectful to not come to council and to not ask your neighbors, or not to inform your neighbors about this. That's one of my big problems. That's pretty much it. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I do have a petition going with our neighbors for these chickens in our backyard.
Thank you. Anybody else like to make a comment on anything? Same topic? Can you limit it to 2 minutes this time, Mr. Holler? I didn't mean to be tough on you, but
It's Mike Holler.
you had lots of time.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
If you asked a coyote, the major food source in this community for coyotes isn't chickens. It's dogs and cats and other rodents that wander around. It's unfortunate, but that's true. I don't know how many of you wandered around the community. I don't see any lost chicken signs up on the telephone poles, but I see a lot of missing dogs and cats. And that's just life. We live in a rural community. As a matter of fact, we encourage these animals to be in our community. We provide wildlife corridors. Chickens or not, those creatures will be there. I was at a council meeting here 3 or 4 months ago where we passed a new subdivision with a caveat that we lost about half the subdivision to wildlife corridor. If that's the direction we're going, then we can hardly blame the coyotes for coming into town, or any other creature for that matter. We're inviting them in. And it's not the chickens that are bringing them in. It's us and all the rest of the food sources that we have, whether they be dogs, cats, or any other creature that we happen to place in front of them. So I would hope that you're not going to allow coyotes to influence your decision. Our greatest source of wildlife in this city is our pride and joy Giant's Head Park. If you walked up, it's basically Jurassic Park. Every creature we have, wild creature we have here is there, and it's right in the center of our community. So please don't blame the chickens.
Thank you, Mr. Aller. Any other comments? This is on any agenda item. Okay, hearing none, we'll move ahead to, I guess it's my report. There's not a lot to report other than the fact that we have a couple of sort of major concerns that are affecting this community as well as others throughout the valley and throughout the province. The first one is the fire hazard that's in our community. It's at 4 or a rating of high as this hot, dry weather continues. According to Fire Chief, we had a 3/4 acre fire on Saturday, which was quite aggressive, but because it was easily accessible, they were able to deal with it quite quickly. As we move through this particular week, the weather is not looking too good in terms of lightning. That's in the forecast for the remainder of the week. So, and on recommendation from our Fire Chief, Glenn Noble, we continue to block access to vehicular traffic, including cars, dirt bikes, and quads on Giant's Head, Conkle, and Cartwright Mountains. It's the primary rationale there is that it's a significant danger for hot exhaust hitting grass, or if a car backs up into brush and grass, could ignite the grass, and the owner wouldn't even know it's happened. They drive away and something starts, and then we've got a problem to deal with. And the way things are going right now, it can be extremely aggressive and do a lot of damage very quickly. The second issue, which is related, is the drought situation. And up until late last week, the Okanagan was still in a designation of provincial drought level 3. And at the end of last week, the Okanagan was placed under drought level 4. And just to note that this is the last drought level. There is no level 5. This has implications for water purveyors like the District of Summerland. A provincial drought declaration of drought level 4 is recognition of the seriousness of water shortages throughout the province. And as a community, we need to continuously, vigorously reduce water use whenever we can and be efficient stewards of our precious water resource. Later in this meeting, we'll have a much more of a discussion as staff will be giving us an update on our water supply. One other topic, I've been managing to drop in on the Rotary Sunday Market. Each Sunday it seems to have been building, and approximately 50 vendors or more, as well as the downtown merchants, have been participating, and the attendance is good. And I've been down there pretty much each Sunday. I've been around and walked up and down for an hour or so. The vendors seem to be very happy. There's sort of a laid-back atmosphere to our market. I don't know why maybe it's just the way it's laid out, but everybody's sort of taking the Chambers line of take your time and enjoy and relax, and that's what's happening at our market. And there's been a lot of activity. Places like the Art Gallery or the Arts Council location tried to get into True Grain the other day on the Sunday, and it was really busy. So I think it's been an exciting addition to our downtown on a time frame that really has not had much activity, and it's been a real boon for downtown and for just general activity in Summerland. So that's my report. Guess we're CAO.
I don't have a report other than I'd like to introduce Katie Karn, who is our new Deputy Corporate Officer. Katie's in the back. I think most of council has had the opportunity to meet Katie, but today she's an observer.
Would you like to stand up, Katie, so we can get a look at you?
One and only time as an observer, I'm
That's
sure.
right. Katie will be very much involved in our agendas coming up soon, so we're glad to have her.
Good to
Katie
see you
comes from
here, Katie.
Abbotsford.
Thank you. Got nothing else?
I think you covered the main topics. The
So I
water and
stole
fire.
everything you were
It's all
gonna talk
good.
about? Oh, okay. Any unfinished business? We're moving forward then? Correspondence, we've got a number of items under 10.1. And are there any councillors would like to bring any of that correspondence forward for any discussion? Councillor Holmes.
Just a question of staff, really. Under outstanding tasks, I noticed that the Prairie Valley upgrades, after removing the no post barriers, have been removed, but we don't have the electronic signs up yet. I'm just wondering what's the status on those and if they'll be in place before school starts.
They, actually, the Director of Public Works is waiting on some information from me, and I promised it to him today, so they should be, they will be ordered this week for sure.
Okay. Anything else? Councillor Boot.
I guess just related to that, the no parking signs.
I did check with the Director of Public Works or Operations Works,
Yeah.
after we discussed the no parking sign, and I am told that the no parking signs are up, so, I understand we did have an Alberta car
Yes.
parked between, so I did report it to them, and we were gonna monitor it.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, can I have a motion to receive the correspondence? Thank you, Councillor Peak. Councillor Holmes, seconder. All in favor? Thank you, motion's carried, thank you. Okay, moving on to 10.2, we have motions and minutes from the council committees and commissions. Any comments there by council in terms of any of those reports? Hearing none, could I have a motion then to receive those minutes, please? Councillor Barco, thank you. Councillor Peak, seconded. All in favor? Thank you. None opposed? Motion's carried. Okay, Manager Development Services, we're into 11.1. Heritage Protection for Lakeside Presbyterian Church.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a bit of background on this application or this issue that's been brought forward is the District of Summerland doesn't really have an official heritage conservation program. However, we do have a Heritage Advisory Commission that takes care of those issues for us. We have a heritage list that identifies buildings of significance in Summerland, and this list has 65 entries on it at the moment, and they are added to time from the recommendation of the Heritage Commission. The heritage list has no statutory protection. It's simply a list of interest, and the way it has worked in the past is if one of the buildings on that list comes in for a demolition permit or a significant building permit that would alter the heritage character of the structure, that information is passed on to our Heritage Advisory Committee, and they go out and attempt to get voluntary compliance to not destroy the heritage values of the building. And as informal as that sounds, it's actually worked relatively well in the past. And recently, the staff was advised by the Heritage Advisory Commission that the Presbyterian Church in Lower Town was for sale. The church is no longer continuing there, and the commission was concerned that if that property sells, that the heritage values may be lost. So the district, trying to respond in a timely fashion, has done as much research as we could in the short time period that we had, and has brought forward a number of options for council to consider if they wish to provide a greater level of heritage protection for that property down in Lower Town. So there's a bit of history there. The property was designated as heritage back in 1984. The heritage designation was removed at the request of the owner in 1991. It does not have heritage protection at the moment. And so the building is up for sale. I understand there has been quite a lot of interest in it. So there are three kind of options that can be considered by council, depending on the level of protection, if any, that council wants to consider. And the least protectionist, if you like, is to leave the building on the current heritage list. It will show up on our radar, and if a permit comes in that would either demolish the building or make significant renovations to it, that information would be passed on to the Heritage Commission, and they would try and get voluntary compliance. The second level of potential protection is to create a heritage register. That's an official register under a section in the Local Government Act, and council can create a heritage register and add property to it. Currently, we do not have an official heritage register. That provides a certain level of protection, but not too much. The protection allowed there is basically council has the ability to delay a permit for demolition or significant renovation for a 60-day period. And that gives council the ability to determine whether they want to designate it as heritage, which has a greater level of protection, or not. So that's the second level. And the third level, which is the most protectionist, is to designate the building as, or the property as heritage. We have one property in Summerland that has that designation. That's the George Riga property up on Caldwell Street in Summerland. That's the only property in Summerland that has this designation. And this, if this designation is passed, there's a notation that goes on the title of the property. It's referred to the Heritage Branch in Victoria. And no alteration can happen to the building without a heritage alteration permit. That comes to council, comes to the Heritage Advisory Commission, and it's determined whether whatever they want to do will significantly alter the heritage value. The only caveat that goes along with that is if you designate a property as heritage and it reduces the market value of the property because of that designation, then the council of the day, or a council has to, or the district has to compensate the property owner for that lost market value. So those are the three options that the council has with respect to this one, and staff is recommending the second option, which is to create a heritage register, add the property, and that will give council, there's no financial compensation triggered with that option, and it does essentially defer a more serious decision until such time as something wants to happen to the property, in which case there's a 60-day period to determine what you'd like to do. I can say that the application or the issue was referred to the Heritage Commission. The minutes were in the council package, and their suggestion is to designate the property as heritage, and they also recommend that we have a more formal heritage program that would protect heritage buildings into the future. Thank you.
Okay. Council, any questions of our Manager of Development Services? Councillor Holmes.
So in 91, the Masonic Lodge sold it to the Presbyterian Church, is that correct?
That's correct.
So, and they asked for that, for the designation to be removed because they said at the time that they had a buyer, but it would be difficult to sell if it was designated heritage.
That's correct.
But the Presbyterian Church didn't really change anything, and they could have kept it. I mean, is that?
Well, interestingly enough, there was a heritage alteration permit issued sometime between 84 and 91, and they got some government grant money to actually go and upgrade the building, part of which had to be returned when the heritage designation was removed. So the heritage values still remain on the building today.
Councillor Carlson.
It says here that there is a functional pipe organ in the sanctuary. Was that part of the original building, do you know, or if it was added when it became a church?
I'm not certain, but the information I have suggests it came about 1929, and the building was built in about 1909. So near to the beginning, but not right at the start.
Councillor Peak.
I'm wondering the difference between a heritage register, which is sort of in between, and designated as heritage. If we designate it as heritage, I'd like to better understand what compensation and how that's arrived at.
The legislation, Mr. Mayor, suggests that there has to be a determination made as to whether the market value of the property is affected by the heritage designation. And I'm not sure how we would determine that. We would have to find some expert that could give us an opinion. Generally, it has to do with the permitted uses, and in this particular case, the property has an institutional use, and it appears that most of the uses could still be undertaken in the building without disturbing the heritage value. But if you had a commercial, or a house, say, that was zoned for a downtown commercial, and having a commercial business in the building would destroy the interior that maybe is the heritage value, that would certainly have an impact because you can't carry on the permitted uses under the zoning. And in that situation, the change in market value may be higher. But without a professional opinion, I couldn't tell council what that value might be.
Councillor Holmes and Councillor Peak?
So, in other words, it's quite subjective.
I would guess.
So, to the flip of that, if a heritage designation increases the value of a property, does that mean they have to pay the city something?
I would suspect not.
We'll talk about this in does heritage designation, you mentioned the interior, but when Riga's house was sold recently, substantial changes were made to the interior. My understanding was heritage designation is pretty much just talks about keeping the envelope of the building. Could you clarify that?
It depends, and in that particular case, Mr. Mayor, there has to be what's called a statement of significance prepared. And a heritage expert goes in, looks at these grounds, the building, all of the particulars, and writes a determination as to what the heritage value is. And my understanding on the Riga property is most of the heritage value is in actually the gardens and the grounds as opposed to the building. And there was a heritage alteration permit granted for the work that was done when the house was sold, because that still remains heritage property. In this particular case, there is a draft statement of significance in the council package, and it mostly refers to the bell tower, the organ, and the exterior of the church. So that would be, it is drafted this time, but that would be what is the heritage value according to the statement of significance.
Okay, Councillor Peak and Councillor Boot?
So if we were to designate on a heritage register, which really just gives us notice if something is going to happen, gives us a 60-day window, which you then might do a heritage designation, which would be based on the values, the heritage values.
That is correct.
And we have the research that provides that heritage values at this point.
It's in draft form, but yes.
It's in draft form. So we could make a decision to have it on a heritage register, but ask for a report to come back to us to greater outline the heritage value and to see if in fact we would wish to put it on as a heritage designation.
Certainly, if we have that direction, we could go and have that work completed.
Thank you.
Councillor Boot?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I sit on the RDOS board as well, and most recently on the July 16th meeting, but also before that, we had a workshop, and I don't remember the actual name of the group that presented to us and we did the workshop with, but it's all around heritage designation, so the third one there. And one of the things that we spoke about in the workshop was the designations that have already been placed on various sites in Summerland. Now, this church, quite obviously, is not on there, but it might be worth contacting that group. And Mr. Mayor, you may remember what the name of the group is.
We can find out.
Yeah. They have all kinds of tools that you can use that let you know if criteria has been met to determine whether or not it should be designated as a heritage building. So that might be something that perhaps we could look into as well. Like the Summerland, or sorry, not the Summerland Research Station, but the administrator's house, yes. That's one of the things that's on this federal heritage registry.
Yes, thank you. CAO?
Just on that note, I had some discussions with Mr. McIntosh about this issue. This is not the way that you would normally go about determining whether or not to start a heritage register or designate, properties that belong on as a designated heritage, because for that exact reason. There's usually a long process that you go through.
Mm-hmm.
You decide that heritage is a value that's a priority for you, and you start to go through a detailed process. In discussion here, in this particular case, we're being reactive to a specific situation, and it's time sensitive, and that's why it's come to council in this way. This is a one-off, and I would recommend after we're finished with this one, that we have a further discussion at a future meeting on a process that we want to follow so that we can use all those tools. And, there are many municipalities out there that have, 15 or 20 buildings in their municipality that are designated as heritage through a bylaw.
Councillor Peak.
I'd be interested in pursuing that because I think there's value in that for the community. Where I came from, Ontario may be different than here, but we also had a component when we did that where there was an incentive program of tax rebates for those that did the work within their heritage designation. So I don't know what's applicable here, but I'd be interested in finding out more about that as well.
Yeah, I think listening to the discussion and seeing what the recommendation is, this may be the best option at the moment, because what bothers me about, designating it as a heritage thing, that at the previous date, the applicant at the time asked council to revoke that. And so it seemed to me that when I read that the heritage designation may not have been worth the paper it was printed on. So, we need the kind of discussion that our CAO just mentioned, where we have criteria that are looked at in great detail with respect to perhaps a number of buildings in town. But this is one, as she described, as a one-off that allows us to have that period of time to re-examine and perhaps look at those attributes of that particular building and see what we're dealing with. So I would now ask perhaps to have a councillor bring the recommendation forward. Councillor Peak?
Yes, I'll bring the recommendation forward. The council passed the following resolution: that pursuant to section 954 of the Local Government Act, council establish a community heritage register that identifies real property that is considered by the local government to be heritage property, and that the property identified as Lot 1 DL 455 ODYD Plan 791 located at 5505 Butler Street be included on the Community Heritage Register.
Seconder, please. Councillor Traynor, thank you. So is there any further discussion? We've had questions of staff. Any discussion yourselves? Councillor Barkwell first.
I have a question of staff, actually, that's come to mind. This was put on like 30 years ago, it was recognized for heritage value and put on and given that designation. And the only other heritage registered type of building we have is the Riga House. So in all this time, that's the only other building that's had any sort of a heritage designation?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, that's correct. There have been a number of alterations and things that have come forward based on the heritage list that have been dealt with without requiring heritage designation. There hasn't been a lot, but a half a dozen. So that system to date has been working surprisingly well.
It's interesting that the council of the day 30 years ago thought that this building was significant enough to put that heritage designation on. Though 17 years later, they changed their mind. Different people.
Okay, Councillor Holmes.
I think 17 years later, they were hoodwinked, to tell you the truth. I see no reason why it needed to be removed. It was basically sold for the same purpose, and no changes were made. I think if you ask anybody in the community, is that a heritage building, the answer would be resounding yes. I think we need to do what we can to save it, to make sure that it's not altered. And I'm afraid that this motion isn't strong enough. I'd like to see maybe an additional motion saying that we're going to look further at having designated a designation program, and that we should get on this.
I just want to interject. I think probably that's what the CAO was referring to more, correct?
I do think that...
Discussion that would lead to that?
Yeah, I do think that council is probably remiss in not having a heritage bylaw.
Yeah. So I think that by doing this tonight, I think would be a positive step, but I think your point is well taken, that we need to move forward in a more positive way of recognizing other buildings and having some more strict criteria that can't perhaps suddenly be reversed in an opportunistic way to change that designation. Councillor Peak.
I would like to agree with Councillor Holmes that this is a gem and communities have to look after gems. And I would hope that in direction to staff that we have that opportunity to have that discussion and bring in the tools. And sometimes the tools, even brought in, are not as strong as you would like them to be, but I would like to have a discussion and bring forward a program.
Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor of the motion? Thank you, the motion passed. All in favor? Yeah, okay, thank you. Okay, motion's carried. Okay, we're moving forward to staff and other reports. 12.1 CAO, a debrief on our power outage, July 8th.
I provided council with a staff report, which I'll just go over in recognition of the seriousness of the event, of the magnitude of the power outage on July the 8th. I just, Don Darling and our manager of utilities met with Fortis to try to just really go over exactly what happened. As you can see in the report, it was the same transformer that had a failure in 2008 that had this particular internal fault that caused our power to go off. Fortis is absolute certain that transformer was completely rebuilt, and it was just the shell that existed at the time that it was reinstated. We've talked about it internally. We talked about with the utility, the electrical staff, and there's no reason not to understand that the first transformer did blow to the extent that it couldn't have been reused. The interesting thing is that transformers don't fail like that. So it's very rare that they fail, and now we've had two so in the same one. So that is something that they're looking at a little bit more. In the end, the transformer that had the fault on the July the 8th, nothing tested incorrect, nothing tested wrong with it. It was recommissioned. They did their internal testings. They talked to the manufacturer, and it was tested that there was nothing wrong with it. It was a small blip or something that caused the failure, and that's what happened. They do state that they sent the portable as quickly as they could. I know that our manager of works was on the phone early with them that day to make sure that it was sent from the Kootenays before they knew for sure that they needed it, so that it was en route. So the portable is still here, and it is here until at least September. They have confirmed with us that they will not take it away without further discussion with council and notification to council. Staff has recommended that council continue with your planned meeting with Fortis senior management at UBCM in September. They will set that meeting up, and at that time, I think that it would be prudent to have the discussion to keep that transformer here potentially longer than September. It is, they're the first to say it's completely unusual. The impact was large on our community, and so I think that's something to have a discussion at that meeting. We talked a lot about communication at that meeting, and how there's a lot of room for improved communication, that when it's the District of Summerland's electrical utility, there are customers, and yet it was Fortis, and the communication wasn't necessarily as strong as it needed to be between the district and the Fortis, so we had conflicting information. Sometimes it was out on a official Fortis tweet before we had even been informed ourselves, so we were still giving outdated information. So they have committed to improving internally their structures, and we talked about that quite a bit. A conversation that staff has had sort of outside the conversation with Fortis is our process that we would do as far as transferring the load, and what alternatives we have had. The other day, when the three of us met with the rest of our electrical utility staff, they had some good ideas as far as meeting with council and determining, having a discussion on what priorities council would like to see that load be transferred, because we have limited capacity through the Trout Creek substation to transfer some of the loads. So it's not enough to power the whole district, but it is But it could be so the question is, should it be downtown so that businesses can operate? Should it be some of the institutions? Where should the priority be? And we need to know that beforehand, because there's some changes to the system that can be made. So we'll, in the next couple months, have a short workshop with council, or a workshop, not looking at what's possible, but more really brainstorming what the priorities should be, so that we can send that back to the utility workers, and they can say, okay, if these are the priorities, this is what it would take to get our system set so this can happen. So that's another step that we want to follow up with. And we really pushed them. We really pushed them on whether or not there was anything else that they felt that FortisBC could have done differently in order to mitigate what happened to us and for the length of time. And they said that they've had numerous meetings with their staff, they've debriefed, and that they feel that given the circumstances, it was addressed with their current resources, as far as the portables that are available now, that they addressed it in the most timely manner and with any resources that they could have used. There was a rumor as such that there was a substation, a portable substation in Penticton that we could have brought to the District of Summerland for use. And it is true that there's a portable substation being used at one of the substations in Penticton, but in the time that it would take to decommission it, because it was in use, because there's maintenance happening on one of theirs, and to bring it here and then recommission it, the transportation time was said to be less, and the engineers did confirm that. They did commit to making sure there's a meeting in early fall to start talking about the long-term planning. There's an agreement with Fortis that once we reach 95% of capacity in our substations, that they would, that there's new capital works planned, and of course that's long-term planning. So, staff will be beginning discussions with them on that, so to make sure that it's well looked at very soon. And other than that, there's not too much to report, other than we're going to continue having regular meetings with them, and hopefully something
Thank you.
happen.
Questions of our CAO? Councillor Barkle, then Councillor Boot.
I'm a little puzzled when you say that there was a failure, but there was nothing wrong. Was it just like a safety trip, and then it couldn't be quickly reset, or what exactly is?
Yeah, I have notes, and maybe Devin, maybe you could help me. It's like a small internal fault that caused the system.
Yeah, I guess what it comes down to, Mr. Mayor, is that they couldn't say for certain what it was. It was an internal fault, in their words. Like our CAO said, they spent a good part of the day testing. They had their staff there, they had engineers on site, and were referring with manufacturers as well, and that's the extent of their knowledge on the fault. And now it's a monitoring game.
So
They indicate that all the testing they've done at that time and since then, that it all tests normal.
So, but there was like a safety trip or something that shut it off, and then?
They couldn't say. It was a fault, is what they were saying, but they couldn't say what the fault occurred from, or how it stopped the transformer from operating. So.
Oh, it just stopped.
Internal
and then
fault.
Had to be button pressed and turned on again after everything was checked, and.
Right.
That's right. Nothing. They didn't have to do anything. They didn't have to fix anything in order to restart it. They did the testing, and then they felt that there was nothing wrong, and they basically pushed a button, and it started again. There was no correction necessary.
Councillor Boot.
You mentioned, CAO, that when we get to 95% capacity, there will be a plan. Discussions will start at least. What capacity are we at right now?
I think we're in the range, in 70 range, I suppose. We're looking at from our electrical model a number of years ago that I believe in about 6 years from now we expect at the current growth rate to be at 95%. So the the discussion and the intent is to start discussions early with Fortis determine, what it is, what process we do have to go to or through, and start it early, so we're not too late to the game.
Councillor Holmes and Councillor Peak, and then Councillor Trainer. Councillor Holmes first, Councillor Peak, Councillor Trainer. Thank you.
Do you know, I think one of the issues that day was the distance that the portable had to travel to get here. And do you know how many portables Fortis does have, and would they normally have one in the Okanagan?
There's apparently 3 portables. One, the one that came stays in Warfield, is housed in Warfield. I understand there's at least one in Kelowna, typically. And did we find out where the third one is? 2 of them in?
I believe it's in the Kootenays as well.
Right, 2 in the Kootenays and 1 in Kelowna. And I think that is the discussion that will be very good for council to have with senior management on the location of these portables.
Councillor
We've got some vacant property down in
That's
Trail
right.
Creek.
Councillor Peak, and then
Thank you.
Councillor Trainer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Certainly, in going forward, having a 70% range that we're now in 6 years, possibly 95%, and discussing the process, I'm sure that they've set up the process with others as well. So that we'll be doing it along with neighboring communities that have done it in the past. I do have some questions and wondering if they have stats on such things of the number of rebuilt transformers in the province and the performance information of such transformers. And if it's rare, how many failures throughout the valley over the last 15 to 20 years there may have been in rebuilt transformers. And I don't know if that's information that could be available by the time we have discussions at the UBCM, but those would be things that I would find useful when we come to have our workshops or when we do the presentations with them.
So if I can get those questions from you
I certainly shall.
after, and then we will certainly pose them so the council has that background before the meetings, as any other information, specific information that you determine you'd
And I
like.
would like to say that I think it's important to look at, when we do the workshops, to look at prioritizing where we would put our capacity in if there was another challenge in terms of a downtime on our provision of hydro.
Councillor Trainer, then Councillor Barkle.
I'm just wondering, over the last while, there's been a couple incidents with Fortis. And I'm just wondering, is there any value in us having like a third party there that can help with this investigation? Because right now it's just like the district and Fortis, and you kind of have to take their word for it. Is there a way that we could have somebody else listening too?
I don't think, I mean, it would be my thought that at this point in time, that may be premature. This will be I know that there was some discussions after the power surge that was disappointing results for council. But this will be the first formal meeting with Fortis, and I think that it would be the outcome of that meeting that council may, at that point, determine that further steps would be needed, but I think protocol would have it that you would have this formal meeting. I mean, we could have some discussions if there was anyone that we want to bring that. I can think of a number of people that are very highly skilled in the electrical utility business that potentially could bring benefit, although it would be a fairly high level meeting. So I could have further conversations with staff and report back to council.
And I wasn't looking at it as a negative thing. I was thinking of it as a positive thing. They might be able to catch things that we miss or that Fortis miss, or they might see something.
I'm looking at this as more of an informational meeting, and right now, and maybe some things that council specifically wants to ask for, such as this redundancy by having a portable substation here at any time possible. So,
Councillor Barkle.
While we're on the subject of power consumption, when is our peak? Is it in the summer from air conditioners or in the winter from heating?
We're winter peaking, yeah. It's fairly close, but it is winter.
Thank you. Any other questions? I think I appreciate what the CAO has done. I think we've had a pretty comprehensive discussion of this particular outage, not just here, but obviously between staff. So I'm looking forward to being able to have that meeting with Fortis at the UBCM, because you know, there may even be the option of, with growth throughout the region that Fortis services, perhaps there needs to be another substation available.
I have
So,
one
you know,
more
go
comment.
ahead.
Sorry, just one more comment. I would like to say, as coming fairly new into this organization, the seriousness that our staff took in this and the amount of research that they did themselves, both Mr. Darling and Devon here, as well as when we debriefed with our electrical utility employees, there was a great amount of interest. They provided us with quite a bit of feedback that was very valuable as we put it together too. So I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, I took that, when you mentioned that earlier about how some of the staff had the understanding of how things might be shifted, I thought that was a pretty valuable aspect of the conversation that our CAO and staff have had. So I think what I take from that is that, you know, the community should be assured that we're taking this sort of thing very seriously. I've had a couple of queries and comments, strong comments from individuals in business that suggest that this has been a great hardship on them during that particular time. Not just in terms of lost dollars, but in having to deal with the public that is a normal course of their business. So I certainly appreciate what staff has done, and I look forward to being able to, you know, avoid this sort of outage. It does happen, but if there's ways to mitigate it and deal with it, as she's just indicated, it may be possible, then we need to move forward on those discussions. So could I have someone bring this recommendation to receive the report forward, please? Councillor Boot, thank you.
I move that council receive the report regarding the July 8th, 2015 power outage for information, and further, that a meeting be scheduled with FortisBC senior management during UBCM to discuss the power surge event and transformer failures in Summerland.
Seconder, please. Councillor Peak, thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Thank you. None opposed. Motion's carried. Thank you very much. And thank you, CAO. That was excellent. Moving on to 13.1. CAO, are you addressing this?
I think this is the appeal on the animal control bylaw. You've got the report there, but I think you should start with just the appeal from the property owner.
Okay. So that's,
Ms. Holler.
yeah. Ms. Holler, would you like to speak to us, please?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. I've never done this before, so.
That's okay.
I'm a little
Go ahead.
nervous.
You're doing well.
Okay, so, I was just kind of upset a little bit, sorry. So Tom and I have been putting in a lot of effort into trying to build new beds in the backyard this year and improve our garden. Actually, when I was building our 5 new beds along the one side and the new walkways there, actually Jim and Juanita came over and said it looked quite nice, which was very kind of them. So we've been doing that because we want to be able to provide a food source for our family. We grow all sorts of things back there, which I also preserve. I can everything there is. So, because you know, it's very important to me to know what's going into my kids' food, and so, sorry. As we have 3 children at home, as our littlest one's getting older, we noticed that we started spending, $5 every 2 days on eggs and things like that. So it starts to add up quite a bit. And so then we talked about getting chickens. So then recently, the opportunity arose to have this coop and already laying chickens. So we brought it home, and I was actually surprised when Gary dropped off the letter because I had no idea there, didn't think there was a bylaw in Summerland of all places against that, let alone such a strict one. We have been putting in efforts to improve the coop. I kind of think it's cute. And we did face it away from our neighbors. Me and my son painted it the other day because he thought that it was pretty important to have it red. But yeah, I was mainly surprised because places like Vancouver, places like Victoria, everywhere like that, they're allowed to have chickens. I actually spoke with the bylaw officer of North Van, and they have no bylaws, yay or nay, They treat everything on an individual basis, and they go out, inspect the coop. If they think the coop is in good order and there's nothing actually wrong with the chickens, then if there is a complaint, then they allow it to stay. And then they usually find that it's usually because the neighbors don't get along, and so they kind of just base it on that. If there is issues with the coop, the homeowners are informed on how to improve their coop and to make it safer. And so yeah, there's Kelowna and Vernon all have backyard chickens. Penticton's on trial basis, and but there's many, many more which I've been looking at, but that'll be addressed to you guys in September. But that was sort of my surprise that we had quite strict bylaws about that as well, as there's so many coops in Summerland. And we have no problem, if for the coyote issue, we have no problem. We'll put in our wiring 12 inches down, and so then it's harder for them to dig under. We have a bunch of alum block at the house I was actually wanting to put around the front, and then that would actually, on the downhill side, so that it would actually make it harder for them to get in. Coyotes, they've been in our neighborhood. I grew up just across the way when I was little. I lived in that neighborhood for 26 years. We've always had coyotes. All their food's there. It's not just because chickens are around. And don't worry, we won't be butchering them. They are purely our children's pets, and which they love to come and play with and collect their eggs, and so they've got their chores now for it. It's actually kind of nice. They don't want to watch TV every morning. As soon as they get up, they want to go see their chickens. So there won't be any bloodshed to attract coyotes. I do believe that as parents and as this next generation does grow up, we do have to be teaching them to provide a sustainable food source for themselves. I'm not asking to have a cow or goat or anything like that. We have a small chicken coop that has 4 chickens in it, and they do lay 3 to 4 eggs a day for us. And I feel that, they are pets to us. They're actually seen as pets in many of the other places that have chickens. And so I would request to get to if they can stay, and then you guys will make your decision on in September about the whole town. Sorry, I feel like I'm shaking. But yes, I do, and I think that it's important to start teaching our children from such a young age. I provided you with some pictures of the garden and what I just took out today from it, and our eggs, and then the kids with the coop. And as for chickens making anyone else's properties worth less, there's $1 million homes in Vancouver that have got chickens or chickens next door. Actually, townhouses, there's places that townhouses can even have chickens shared backyards. So I don't really know how to end this properly. But anyways, I'd just like you guys to consider my appeal in keeping these, and that this is going to be an issue that Summerland will be dealing with in the near future. And I do truly think that, there's apparently quite a large amount of people in town that would like to have chickens. They wrote letters about it, checked with the city first. And, but yeah, no, Karen was saying that they've got quite a stack, and that's why it's gonna be brought to your guys' attention. And I do think this is something that'd be very good for Summerland. I think it suits Summerland. Like a city like Victoria or Vancouver that has them, I think it's quite appropriate for our city here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Council?
Did you want a summary?
Yeah, like to summarize any of the information you have for us, Corporate Officer?
Just wanted to point out that I do empathize, but bylaw enforcement is carried out on a complaints-based way here, and there were complaints received, so we did have to act on that. There was no targeting of these particular people for having the chickens. There may be other violations that we're not aware of, but it is based on complaints. Staff feel that at this point, because we don't know what a potential chicken bylaw may entail or what it may permit, it's hard to say that this particular chicken coop would actually be in compliance with a potential future one. So we're a little concerned about the precedent it may set and whether or not it would actually meet a potential future bylaw. We do have to enforce the bylaws as they exist right now. If there's anything
Okay.
else.
Thank you. Any questions from council, or before we move ahead? Councillor Boot,
oh,
yes. Councillor Boot first, and Councillor Carlson. Just a moment.
I guess through the CAO, your outstanding tasks list, it designates our corporate officer as preparing a staff report with options to council August the 24th, which is our next council meeting. Is that kind of a valid date, or I'm just wondering if the timeline is working with that still?
We're hoping that we would come to, we have a few bylaws that are in the queue for, that's somewhat urgent, but that is the plan, and that bylaw list is updated, so that's,
Okay.
unless something went unexpected, that is the hope.
Awry. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Carlson?
That was my.
Okay. Anything else? I think it's, Councillor Holmes, sorry. And then Councillor Peak, did you have a question?
I'm just wondering if I could ask Ms. Holler a question. Is that okay? Yeah.
Go ahead, yeah. Yep,
Please.
so we can hear you, that's all.
Before you got your chickens, did you go talk to your neighbors and tell them what you were planning? And
No, we didn't. We don't really talk to them much, and just thinking that there wasn't actually a bylaw in place, we didn't even think to, go over there and like ask, didn't think we'd have to ask permission or something like that. That probably, thinking now, it would have probably been the, better choice to do, but at the time, like, we just sort of thought we could have them without, yeah. And we don't, like I said, we don't really, sorry.
Any other discussion? Councillor Peak?
Backyard chickens can be very controversial, and there can be lots of reasons for and against it. I have some concerns if we have a bylaw and we're not enforcing it, so I understand why the staff have come with this kind of recommendation. And if we're looking at it that quickly, maybe there's a reason not to deny or to deny a relaxation of the bylaw. So I'm concerned at how quickly we may get the report and being able to review it. So are we looking at August? Are we looking in September? I just want to have a little greater surety as to how quickly that might come to us.
As I just mentioned, August 24th is the plan, unless anything goes unexpected. It is expected. It is a bylaw. Typically what we would do is we would be bringing forward a recommended approach. Council would then say whether or not you would agree, similar to how I did with the busking policy, and then we would formulate the bylaw, and then it takes a meeting. So it typically it could be 3 meetings, but we could try to speed it up depending on and bring it in a bylaw form.
So it could take 2 or 3 months.
It could take 2 months, and it could be a lot faster than that. The good thing about doing a chicken bylaw now as opposed to a year and a half ago is that there's more municipalities that have sorted out some of these controversial things that are definitely part of it. So there are some good precedents.
Thank you very kindly.
I just wonder if there are any repercussions to council other than, maybe someone else might put in another chicken coop before we have a discussion if we allow them to keep the chickens.
I assume anything's possible. I think, looking at where Summerland has come over the last year and a half and where some of the other municipalities are sitting with bylaws, it's entirely up to council what they do. But you do have those 2 options, and I think Councillor Peak has alluded to the potential to take option 2. And considering we're looking at reviewing this bylaw, would seem an unfortunate lineup of stars, so to speak, to move ahead with with this denial when we're in the throes of examining a bylaw change. So it's up to council, and if you choose to, I'll be asking for the motion in a minute. It's up to whoever is going to make that motion to decide what they're going to do. Councillor Carlson?
Is this the kind of motion that we can defer for 2 weeks until we have this conversation and allow them to keep the chickens or not?
Well, by taking option 2, for example, you're doing that, I believe.
But can we defer this entire thing and put it aside, and does that put it out of the
CAO?
way, or is that the wrong way to look at it?
You could table it. From a CAO's perspective, I always hesitate to suggest that you overrule a bylaw, whether or not it's for 2 weeks or 1 year,
Okay.
because it's very difficult for the bylaw enforcement officer not to have consistency. Not often do you have one that is just so close. So in this particular case, to decide to do nothing and table it is not necessary. It's somewhat similar to allowing the chickens, but it's just, but it is different in that we're taking no action, and the bylaws officer's not approving it or denying it. They're just not taking any action until 2 weeks, but it's.
Councillor Holmes?
Well, given the circumstances, I think that's probably the best option, though, because, you know, let's just be realistic. You know, we're going to be discussing this in 2 weeks or 2 months or whatever. It's imminent that we're going to be discussing it one way or another. And so if we're, you know, talk about, if we end up implementing a backyard chicken bylaw, and just, you know, a month earlier we've just told somebody to take it down, it sends all kinds of weird messages, if you ask me. I think you know, we just have to have some sort of ceasefire right now. Okay, to just tell people, just hold off on your chickens. Don't get any more chickens. And okay, if you've got some chickens, keep them there, and just hold on, because the community's been waiting for us to deal with this, and so we should deal with it. And let's just ask the community to try and have some understanding and patience while we get this in place, and just hold tight. I don't know how you put that into a motion, but
That would just simply be that you table it for until next meeting.
I think that sounded like, I think you could have covered that by saying common sense, which you did very well. So any Councillor Barkwell?
Given the unique situation here, and which everybody has already described, my preference is that we not table the motion, but we actually just, and I'd like to move that, and then we can make our decision. I would like to move that the request for a relaxation of the animal control bylaw to allow the keeping of chickens at 8242 Pierre Drive be allowed.
Be allowed.
Yeah.
Okay.
If anybody would want to second that, then,
Well, no,
then we
there's,
know where we're going. Yeah.
there's the alternative, if I may proceed, that you can present the motion, and then the motion can fail,
Yeah.
which is not what you're doing.
Well, if he's asking for a motion, if he's presenting a motion, he's looking for a seconder.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
You have a seconder for Councillor Barkwell? Which is fine.
You can ask for a friendly
You can
amendment.
ask
Friendly
for a
amendment,
friendly
but of course.
Councillor.
What would be?
Pending
Speak into the mic, please.
approved pending the future discussions of a chicken bylaw.
Yeah, pending the adoption of a formal bylaw on the
Okay.
chicken husbandry, and with the full recognition that once this has been established, that it will be enforced.
Thank you. A seconder? Councillor Booth, thank you. Any further discussion? Councillor Peak?
All right, I mean, when you have a bylaw, I have trouble supporting this particular motion, because when you have a bylaw and you have staff that are compelled to support the bylaw, it's important to support your own bylaws. Even within the interim, you should be supporting, my internals say that we support what we have passed and are actually working with. So I do have some difficulty with the motion before us.
That's fine. Any other points of discussion? Councillor Holmes?
There's no shortage of laws in this country that are not enforced. You know, I don't think we'd be terribly unique in that respect. We've got a federal election going on, and there's lots of discussion about laws that aren't being enforced. So that doesn't really bother me too much. I certainly would have liked Ms. Hollers to speak to their neighbors before they'd done this. I think, you know, that's really the crux of the whole thing, is that, you know, get along with your neighbors, and I'm sure the neighbors won't have a problem with it. But I really think just with the timing and everything, this is the most logical approach to me.
Thank you. Councillor Barco?
Yes, I understand what Councillor Peak is saying about not enforcing the rules and regulations we live by, but I believe that this is a sufficiently unique situation to make an exception. It's almost like we're making a one-off bylaw for Ms. Holler, so it's a unique situation.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, could you read the motion as presented by Councillor Barco, please?
The request for relaxation, the request for relaxation of the animal control bylaw to allow the keeping of chickens at 8242 Pierre Drive be allowed, pending adoption of a formal backyard chicken bylaw, with the recognition that once established, it will be enforced.
Okay, thank you. We ready for the vote? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. The motion's carried. Thank you. Okay, we're moving forward to 13.2, to our water supply update. Now,
No, I don't.
CAO, are you leading that off?
I am. Is that where we are right now?
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, sorry. So, we have a presentation with the three of us, and it's on water supply. We're going to talk about the Summerland water system storage. We're going to go over the historical data. We're going to talk about the provincial declaration, some potential actions where we hope to have some discussion, and then a little bit about what the province is asking us to do here. So we'll start it off.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. So Summerland water system storage. So most of our decisions regarding district water system are based on reference to a myriad of documents, some of which are the water master plan, the watershed master plan, the water availability report, the drought response plan, and the dam O&M manuals. So one of our best indicators is our trigger graph. This was developed as part of the Trout Creek Water Use Plan Operating Agreement. It's an important tool for predicting drought and implementing drought levels, used for analysis and of course with other indices. So this graph shows total storage volume versus time. The red line at the top shows the full storage of all the reservoirs. The dashed light green line below shows the old full storage before Thirst Dam was raised. And the dashed dark green line below shows the minimum end of year storage for refill, which is approximately 35% of full pool. The levels of water restrictions are shown in the shaded areas, and so implementation of the drought level is considered when the volume shown in the colored lines drops within the shaded area, and again with other indices supporting the implementation of this level. The black line, as you see here in the legend at the bottom, shows a 2015 line. This line is very similar to the past 5 years, but as you can see, it is approximately 3 weeks ahead of the last number of years. Yeah, next slide. So historical demands. Historically demand is reduced later in the year as follows. Historical peak daily demands between 2002 and 2005 were 110 megaliters per day in the summer. Current peak daily demands in the summer are about 75 megaliters per day that go through the water treatment plant, and approximately 10 megaliters per day through the Prairie Valley agricultural use. August demands is historically 87% of July's demand, and September's demand is historically 52% of July's demand. The required fish flows taper off in a similar manner. So the fish flow calculations basically are done through a process which starts with a trigger graph, which is used to determine the drought level. A couple items not shown here. Stream flow measurements are done by staff to determine the volume that is bypassing the intake. Staff then download Camp Creek volumes, and then they use the appropriate multiplier to determine the fish flow. At level 1, we'd be looking at 10 times the volume of Camp Creek. And that's as far as fish flow, it's very important, and we always make sure to ensure that we always have sufficient fish flows. So historical demands, this graph shows the water demand per user group. This comes out of the Water Master Plan. As you can see in the green, the agricultural users are a significant portion of the overall demands, followed then by the residential in blue and others below those. As you can see, the demands historically drop somewhat in August and then significantly in September and October. So all of our reservoirs have a minimum end-of-year storage in order to refill them properly in the freshet. So the end-of-year storage goals for Thirsk and Crescent, both reservoirs are considered sure fills even in severe drought situations, which are 30% of historical mean runoff and rainfall. Crescent is usually brought down to a level only a few feet above the outlet structure, which is the slide gates, and that is done to protect the structure from ice and such in the winter. Thirsk is targeted to have about 9 meters of storage to provide the district with demand flows through the winter as well as fish flows. Yes? It just means that it will fill 100% surety that it will fill, come up to, to our.
If there's enough snow, is that what it means? Or?
Yeah, it simply means that if given given the volume that we leave it at the end of the year, and because of the volumes of water that do come into that reservoir, it's been suggested that it's a guaranteed fill in the spring, that we don't need to worry about it filling.
So if you had a low snowpack year?
Well, that is in drought conditions,
Oh.
that they're suggesting that, yeah. So the end of year storage goals for headwaters 1 through 4. The water management consultant, David Sellers, ran a computer model to determine the probability of refilling, is what we were just referring to. So the target in year-end storage is 2,800 megaliters, which provides about 90% probability of refill during the drought. And if allowed to go empty, the probability then drops to about 40% of refilling in a drought year. End of year storage for Eisentalk Reservoir. So if allowed to drop 1.5 meters above the outlet structure, the probability of refilling is approximately 80% during the drought year. Eisentalk is usually kept full until later in the year for a couple of reasons. One, water released from Eisentalk reaches the intake, which is our Summerland reservoir, several hours quicker than it does from Thirsk. And this allows quick response to this reservoir, the balancing reservoir or Summerland reservoir, if it drops and needs rapid inflow. So just to let you know, Thirsk, we're looking at, I believe it's about 18 hours once you open gates at Thirsk to the time that the water reaches our intake, and Eisentalk is more in the realms of about 12 hours. So making adjustments to these dams is it can be very difficult because you're basing the demands on 8 hours prior or estimated demands for subsequent days. Summerland Reservoir is required to stay within a few feet of elevation difference. Too high and it breaches the reservoir, and too low and and there's not enough head to provide that water to the water treatment plant. So it's a difficult balance. So the end of year storage goals for Whitehead Reservoir. Whitehead, it's a small basin, so it's very difficult to refill. So end of year storage is as high as 80% of capacity. So, and just a note at the bottom that all of these end of year storage numbers can be found in our dam safety O&M manuals. So there's, as you can well imagine, there are very many variables and many considerations when making these decisions.
So we're probably going to come back to the actual numbers and some of those calculations after we go through the rest of the presentation. So because I think some of it'll fall into place. But just to sort of move on to sort of following, as Mayor Waterman said at the beginning in the mayor's report, the Okanagan Basin is officially in drought level 4. So Summerland has adequate levels of water at this time. That's basically what's at this time compared to some other areas and municipalities that are already facing shortages. So the question really is, what does this mean to us? That's a map here of the drought levels. Everything in red are the areas that the province has declared now level 4, and everything in the gold color are the level 3s, and then we've got the ones in the and the 2s sort of up north there. But you can see that there's a fairly large area that is red, that is number 4, and where the overall drought levels are quite serious. And the province is taking this seriously and are attempting to make sure that there's a sense of urgency within each individual, not so much to think, oh, we have enough water in our municipality, but we're all part of a grander picture, and how can we all do our part? So, when we've been doing quite a lot of work to make sure that we fully understand as best as we can both the technical data that the utilities department is really working on, and also what's coming from the province. We're all getting these bulletins, and in talking to the CAEO there the other day, I mean, basically, like she says, we're at drought level 4. There is no level 5. That's her best way of saying we're at our maximum. Right now in level 4, it's voluntary conservation. So municipalities at this point in time can determine which stage in their own water conservation to go at. Up until this point, we've stayed at stage 1 because we've been trying to do more of a passive education to say it's the right thing to do, conserve water where you can. In levels, I'll go into that later, sorry. So under level 4, the province can by legislation, start regulating and restricting our license holders. So the license holder is us, the district. So they can, under the Fish Protection Act or the Water Act, they can restrict, they can say, no, you may not pull this water, you may not do this, or you must not do this. And they have done that in some other areas already. In the last report that came, they did name Trout Creek as one of the creek, being the second largest intake into Okanagan Lake. So again, what does this mean to the District of Summerland? There are some that will say, we have enough water, we've got the infrastructure, we've got enough water, but it's more to start determining what we can do for the bigger picture. As I said, the provincial declaration, level 3 called for a target of 30% reduction. We didn't really advertise the 30%. We were just trying to say, so they're still sticking with 30%. Level 4 calls for a target of maximum conservation. The things that we're going to talk about coming up now that we may be able to do the right thing, but by trying to restrict water flows, but recognizing the importance to agriculture, to this community, and the need for irrigation in growing season. So I've listed some here to talk to, moving to the next stage of watering restrictions, talking about the municipally owned operated grounds. We'll come up to that. Actually, I'll just go through each of the screens. So we're talking about going, sorry about the small printing there. We're talking about going to stage 2. In the District of Summerland, stage 2 only just means that it's now 2 times a week watering instead of 3 times. So it's not a onerous one. The feeling is, but the province feels that by going to stage 2, it's making that suggestion that we need to move. For some people, education and making sure that they understand the bigger picture is enough. Some want to know why we haven't actually tried enforcing. So we are recommending stage 2. We could jump right up to stage 3 or 4, but as you'll see in the future slides, we still believe that where we really need to ramp up is the education. What can people do? Start providing information to people on what they can do to reduce water. How can they, things people have never, that just don't really think about it. Start putting educational material, make it available for people to learn ways that they can, rather than just not watering their lawns, just ways that they can change how they go about their day-to-day. So that's the first one that we're talking about, is moving to the next stage of water restrictions. The next one, and this one I had quite a talk to from the Okanagan Basin Water Board CEO, and that is stop watering municipally owned and operated grounds. Stop having green grass around municipal halls or in your parks and your playgrounds, not just in Summerland, but in general. There's apparently a number of our municipalities in our basin that still have extraordinarily green grass on all of their on all their grounds. But the question to council is, what do we mean when we say that? Are we talking playgrounds and parks? Are we talking about, our public buildings? How about drip watering for our plants and our planters? Drip watering doesn't take the same amount of water by any means as irrigation. Do we still want to keep that going? And then perhaps one of the more controversial ones, our water spray park. That spray park is spraying water. The kids are having a really good time in it, but it is not recycled water. And how does council want to handle that? So that is one that we need to have that conversation on and find out what direction council would like to give us on that one. For the agricultural uses, I just inserted that graph that Devin showed us a little while ago with the green. The green on there are the agricultural the irrigators. They make up a large portion of our water use. I think that in the District of Summerland, we already know that our agricultural growers and our irrigators are very responsible. There's a number of them. We can tell that from our stats. There's a number of people that are very advanced in the methods they use. So, and the level of consciousness about watering. There's probably some more that we could do. We're suggesting in this next step to do a door-to-door campaign to our highest users. We can talk about potential ways that they might be able to reduce consumption, to be able to talk to them about the fact that they are higher than perhaps other people. Facilitation of an educational meeting with the agricultural users. So to suggest that between the people that know, between the experts in the field, perhaps they can have a conversation and figure out ways to better use the water. And I think the last point there is we now have a water and agricultural committee here, and I think the involvement of both of those committees is very important in this. They have the expertise on those committees to perhaps put some more suggestion in. So those are sort of our thoughts for your consideration. And then I think continued bylaw enforcement for the non-compliance, you know, the people whose sprinklers still are going on 7 days a week at noon, or more education being the real big one. We've done some, but we can do more. We can start working on utility billing. We can do more newsletters. We can provide better information on what it means when we say that the basin is in level 4 drought, because people need to start understanding the impact on the lake or the impact on the fish that the province. This isn't going to go away. The province has made this call, and then the other one is, and we've already started doing this a little bit, but to explore the opportunities for collaborative educational messaging. You know, this is the basin. So again, we have Penticton doing their advertising, we've got Peachland doing their advertising, us doing, or compilation of the educational, talking to them, talking to Penticton and saying, if we're all doing messaging, why can't we to do a little bit more collaborative work on the messaging? So those are some of the thoughts that we have for the next, not to say it would be the last step, but for the next step, to say back to the province and to the water board, this is the steps that we're going to take to try to monitor, see if we can bring the use down even more than it's been coming down, to try to get people on board with us without having to take a heavy hand and impose greater restrictions, give people the opportunity to show that they actually care about so yes, we're in a favorable position regarding our water supply because of due diligence and preparation that the District of Summerland has done. We've put the infrastructure in, we've done the research on the trigger graphs, and we have that data. But we can still play a role in changing the way that the water's used. And in my conversation the other day, it was really the word good steward kept coming up a lot. Like the people in Summerland can do this and because they want to be good stewards to the Okanagan Basin and to the lake and to the fish, and not necessarily because we ourselves are going to run out of water, but because it's the right thing to do. So there's a lot of sort of information there, but I think there's a few things that Council should discuss on helping give us some direction on where you want us to go with this.
Okay, thank you for the presentation, both to Devin and CAO.
Sorry, the one thing, Devin, I don't know if you mentioned where we exactly were right now. Did we?
Nope, I didn't touch on that. We're at a total storage volume of about 87%. That's where we currently are.
And did that improve over, I think were we not at 74%?
Well, I think possibly when we're looking at multiple numbers with Thirsk and different reservoirs, we're talking overall volume. So.
It is relatively normal at this point in time for
it is.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Council discussion, Councillor Barkle.
Could we go back to the trigger graph on the slides?
Oops.
So the black line is where we are now. And so we're a long ways from the point of ever sort of being required under this formula to go to a level 2 system. It looks like consumption is pretty predictable from the middle of August onwards. I mean, we're here because people in Summerland have, over the years, become very good stewards of water. We were in a tough situation for a long time until thirst was raised. And during that period, people became very conscientious. So that's why we're, one of the reasons, and the other is the large amount of storage. So I never heard anything there that how additional savings and, letting our lawns go brown and our parks go brown does anything for the people in Vancouver or even people in the Okanagan, other than, can somebody tell me how that?
And actually, I'm glad you brought that up, because I forgot. When, in the conversation that I had the other day, I said, you know, what, I was pushing on that exact point and asking, what happens if we have really good compliance and we cut too much and we need to start to spill water? And basically the answer that came back to me is, if you need to put extra water into the lake, then someone, if Summerland doesn't need it, someone does need it, and that the lake levels are being affected, and that that there's a very good chance that because of the water warming, that the creek levels are going to need it, even if it's showing on our graphs that it is okay right now. So it's more of an altruistic thing. If yes, we have more water, and there's no way of answering other than if you believe that somewhere along the line the water's needed.
Councillor Barkle.
So if we conserve more water now and we drain our dams like we have to do in the fall, is that when it would be of benefit to people like later down the road, or are they suggesting we let the water go down the creek now, drain our dams straight down to the lake and raise the lake level now?
I think it would be from what I understand in my discussions and in my discussions with staff, that we would not likely do it now unless it was forced upon us. The real thing here is that the ministry is looking at where their options are to regulate and enforce. And it's well known that Summerland has good capacity. So they have the powers to say, Summerland, you need to dump your water or the better steps that and they're interested in what steps we're taking. What steps are you taking? What step are you taking? If we can show that we do care and that we are trying without becoming onerous to conserve water, then the idea would be that it would not be right now, that it would be sometime monitoring because we still don't know what's going to happen. We still don't know. We have more data on this graph, so our points are much finer. The other, and I think we explained that on those other years, there's only a point at the bottom and the top. There's because we weren't reading it on a regular basis because we didn't need to. So we don't actually know what those lines were doing in between if they were jagged or straight down like that. So there's only so much history that we can go with on this trigger graph as well, and
you alluded to the education component, which is certainly everybody would agree with. I think that with the farmers, obviously that's where the biggest gains could be. Like a 1% reduction in farm use would be like a 5% reduction in domestic use, and perhaps that's where we could concentrate our efforts.
Yeah, we have other councillors that want to speak, but I'm going to just quickly interject in that, as Councillor Barkle was saying quite accurately, that, the trigger graph was developed in 204, 205 in response to the serious situation we had in 203. Summerland happens to be in a good position. We've, as a result of some of the work back in that period of time, thirst was raised. We're basically the science involved in what we've done with the trigger graph, and knowing exactly what we're doing is good. I think the only want to be a little careful in the sort of the looseness of the words. We don't at any time, we may drain the odd dam because of works or bring it down to a certain level, but we by no means drain them unless there's a need to rework the works. And I think knowing what we know right now, you know, we're supplying the fish flow, actually probably more than is required. We are also getting some voluntary response from people on the reductions in use. So what we're considering right now is the options that may be presented to us to be, say, good stewards. And you know, we have some good options in front of us. So, Councillor Carlson.
With all the meters that we have on our irrigation boxes and on our homes, I think that we have enough data collected in our system, and I also believe that a lot of it has never been used to do any sort of education or talk to the people who are quite high water users. And I think that since we have that information, it's a waste to just let it sit there, so we should definitely be doing something along those lines. And it doesn't mean that you're going to talk to every single person that uses water, but there's certainly going to be those that might be seen as water hogs, or at least need to know what the difference is and how they can reduce what they're using. So I would support that wholeheartedly.
Councillor Peak.
I would agree with what Councillor Carlson has to say, had to say about that as well. I'm wondering, I can see us working to a stage 2 and doing 2 times per week watering and doing even an odd. I think that that's good stewardship with our community. I know that we've asked for general reductions, but this would just be a further step to a good steward position.
And I should have noted that it was actually one of the, in the provincial drought plan, level 4, it does ask any municipality to go to your next step. No matter what stage you're at, it asks you to go to the next stage.
Thank you.
Councillor Holmes.
Do we know what steps other Okanagan communities have taken?
It's quite all over the board, but this week I understand that there's a number that are going to level 2 right now. There is at least one that doesn't have restrictions in. Some are in level 2 now, so it's quite mixed.
You know, I don't mind being a good steward and watering my lawn twice a week, but not if it's so Kelowna can water theirs 3 times a week, you know, if that's what I mean. You know, I think we're all in this together. We should all be kind of on the same page. And on that token, I wonder whether, I mean, you're asking for direction from council, but I kind of think, are we even in a position to give direction? I think this isn't really a political decision. I think it's something the water experts should be telling us, coming to us with the recommendations what we ought to be doing.
These recommendations, what we've put up there today are recommendations, and it's right. It's for most of what's up there, we don't necessarily have to have a council resolution because the Director of Work Utilities has the ability to move into stage 2, and the rest is really, let's take this on and do the education, and with the exception of the municipal property, which I think council needs to talk about. The rest, it can just happen, but I think it's good to have council support behind it yeah. But I think there needs to be discussion on this municipal property.
Councillor Traynor.
Before we get to that, I just have a quick question. How much do we rely on the snowpack for this coming fall and winter? So like right now we're sitting at 87%, but if we have a really low snowfall, what kind of condition are we in for next year? Like, I'm just trying to think ahead. Because we saw that presentation about a month ago, and that's what they were predicting was a really low snowpack this year.
Right, and it does affect us, no doubt. Just one point of clarification: our total storage volume as of the end of last week was 79%. So I think the number I gave you earlier was from a previous couple weeks. So yeah, to answer your question, it does affect it significantly.
So do we take that to account at all, or?
We do take that into account. The difficulty is we want to leave our reservoirs at a certain elevation at the end of the year so that when freshet does hit us, if it's a typical year, then our reservoirs will fill, but will not spill to the degree that we're in trouble, or in a flooding situation, or concerned about our dams breaching. So that's why we bring them down to that level. So to keep them up beyond that level, assuming we had those volumes still at the end of the year, is risky.
One of, on that note, I think, again, what came up in my discussion was that we're really in uncharted territory. This is an unprecedented drought. Whether it's, everybody can have their personal thoughts on whether there's overreaction or whether it's just a blip, or if it's, but it is uncharted, and we have to do what we need to do what we can do to ensure that we will refill, given the worst case scenario.
Yeah, and if it turns out in the fall that we do have adequate or more than adequate water, then as per usual we would release some, and that in turn would help the elevation of Okanagan Lake and those further downstream.
I think, if I can interject, Devin, the idea of the trigger graph, it was built to be dealing with various levels of drought, right?
That's correct.
And so there's lines built in there showing us, what's required for refill and so on. And as I understand it, even though there was a 2,500 megaliter number, the line that's up there is like 5,000 megaliters is what we like to leave in the system.
Right.
And so in order to, in a normal year, refill. Now, we could be into a new normal situation that perhaps wasn't, part of the configuration of understanding when this trigger graph was built. But the trigger graph and the resulting information was built to deal with precisely the situation that we're in right now, and being able to monitor, adjust, plan, and manage our water. And so Summerland is in a good position, but we're also looking at how we can not only ensure, in case we're into a new normal, that we make sure that our dams are substantially filled to ensure refill. At the same time, it may offer Summerland the opportunity, knowing in quite great detail what our dam supply is, what our management strategies are with the water, how we manage the reservoirs, that we may be in a position to actually help the system. And because of our understanding of our system, be able to be leaders in the valley with respect to good stewardship of the whole resource. Because don't forget that Summerland has the second largest watershed behind Trout Creek. We are a very important resource for the overall system in the Okanagan. So, what we do matters. And so if we look at our system and we want to be, we can afford to be good leaders and good stewards and lead the way. And we talked about what other communities might be doing. Well, what Summerland does may make a big difference in whether other communities follow our lead and comply with what provincial declarations may come at us, in addition to, I know there's nothing beyond stage 4, but in terms of their levels of enforcement of level 4. So I think what council has to understand is that Summerland's done its homework. We know where we're at. And so we know what we require in our dams and how we read the system as we move through, say, the system was built and the understanding was built. How do we deal with 3 years of consecutive low snowpacks? That's how it was built and why we examined it the way we did. And so we are in a position of leading the way and being good stewards, at the same time making sure we look after the necessities of our own users. And so I think by going to stage 2, it's certainly not an onerous thing to move to 2 waterings a week. You know, so anybody with an automatic system, they change the clock. That's all there is to it. And our ag users are in a very critical position right now. And I think when we have discussions with some of the ag users, for example, cherries are now finished. So as Councillor Carlson has indicated to me earlier, they'll actually be dropping their use of water on their cherry blocks to half of what they've been doing, which makes a big difference in terms of, you know, the number of acreages, the acres that just that operation involves. So we have to be cognizant of how we can adjust our use patterns through the community based on the needs that are there. And we certainly can easily move to stage 2. We can easily look at our own watering on our municipal grounds, parks, playgrounds, etc. And we need to be sending a message to not only our residents that we need to be strong, you know, conservers of the resource to allow the users that require, you know, reasonable access to water right now in order to have profitable crops, etc. But also that we will be leaders in terms of the understanding in a whole basin-wide idea. So I think we're in a position to be leaders in this issue, and I think we should be doing that. And I'd like to suggest that we not only move to stage 2, which of course our works people can do anyway, but I think we should be suggesting that we move to make some of these other adjustments in our municipally owned and operated grounds as well. That will send a message to everybody that we're serious about what we're doing and that we do understand the overall depth of concern that the province has brought with this declaration of level 4. It hasn't happened before. Level 4 is a new thing for us. So it's a thing to be taken seriously, and it's something that we can lead the way and do things in our own operations that'll make a big difference in the amount of water, Councillor Traynor, that we will have to even retain behind our dams. So there's a lot of things we can do, and I think what our CAO has indicated that we need to keep our discussions and education program going, but there are some things right now that we can do and guide staff in what they need to do going forward. Councillor Peak.
I'd like to better understand, because I spent 3.5 hours with grandchildren down at the water park on the weekend, and it's an extremely well-used facility. Could I better understand where the water comes from and why we're saying it's not a recycled water? Because I would have thought it was recycled. Could I have a little explanation on that?
It comes from our residential water source. It flows through the system and drains out towards the lake. I think had been discussion sometime in the past about recycling, but in order to recycle a park such as that, you'd require significant treatment in order to make it safe, in order for IHA to accept the reuse of that water.
So it would have to be treated in some manner to go back as recreational water into the lake?
Well, it would have to be treated to go through the system, be treated, and then come back through the system so that it's recycled for kids to use and drink and whatever else they do. So
I tell them they can't drink it.
Yeah, I know. But that's the concern. It's the health safety of it.
Okay.
I think too, as Devin is alluding to, you know, the messaging with that is strong as well. And so I think doing what we can to enhance our own situation for the users that have a real necessity for use right now. And as was indicated much earlier in our meeting, as a community, we're making sure that agriculture is a priority and the production and quality of fruit that this community provides in order to have income and money circulating in the community is very important. So I think we can look at options of what we can do. Councillor Carlson, then Councillor Peak.
Thank you. I'd just like to subsequent to the answer.
Okay, Councillor Carlson first,
When does
please.
the water park go off? At the end of summer?
I believe so, but I'd
Anyways,
have to get the answer for you on
If
that.
it's only on for 3 more weeks and the water goes into the lake, I don't see a problem with letting people continue to play in the water.
If I may, subsequent to my question, which I received an answer to, certainly I understand our water resources in terms of our growers. I also see that we are a tourist community, and that I know that park area and the water sprinkler park is an important part of our tourism piece as well. So I have some concerns, and as
Yeah.
Councillor Carlson just said, there is, if you're looking at 3 or 4 weeks, it probably doesn't make a heck of a lot of difference in the usage of the amounts of water.
We may disagree there, but anyway, Councillor Barkwell.
I just wanted to echo, I guess, Councillor Carlson's comments. If the only reason we're ever holding this water back is to raise the lake level, then that's what we're doing with the water park. It's going straight into the lake. By that same token, isn't if someone waters their lawn or the park, where's that water going? It's eventually going down into the lake as well, isn't it?
That's the age-old conversation. I mean, I think there's a difference between, there's definitely a difference between the water park and where it's draining and a lawn being.
There's probably quite a delay between the park and the lake, but not at the water park itself. It's, immediate.
Point taken. Councillor Booth.
Thank you. Through the CAO, I have a couple of questions for Mr. Vandermeer. Are the dams checked weekly for levels?
They are.
Thank you. And, on one of the slides, and I'm not sure, I think it was just after the trigger graph, I have written down that August is 87% of July water use and September is 52% of July. Is that historically, or obviously it's not for this year?
No.
No, never mind. That was a stupid question I was going to ask, because we're not through August. But are we, let's see, are we in line this year? I realize that we're only on August 10th today. But are we following historical?
But I think that's what you need to look at the trigger graph, and that's when you need to, my point about the fact that we don't have as many points. Okay. So all the rest of the years, it's a solid line or a straight line, and we're assuming that it's somewhat straight. Yeah. But we don't know for sure. It could have been so we don't necessarily know if we're going to expect this one to stay relatively straight, or we're expecting some modification in it.
Okay. Thank you. And then I just have one comment. And that comment goes to when the CAO mentioned, that perhaps Summerland water isn't necessarily Summerland water. And I think that that's the message that we've been getting from the Okanagan Basin Water Board, which is inundated. There is so much knowledge, academic knowledge, technical knowledge at the Okanagan Basin Water Board, as you well know, Mr. Mayor. And one of their slogans, or for lack of a better term, is one valley, one water, and it's very much like that. We're in this together. We share that whole Okanagan Basin of water. Thanks.
Councillor Holmes. Thank you, Councillor.
How often does the Parks and Rec water parks right now?
Right now,
Is it the same as residential?
Same as residential, yeah. They follow the bylaw.
So if residential use would go down to twice a day, then automatically parks would go down to twice a day? Is there a connection? Is that automatically connected?
Typically, that's what would happen.
Right.
Sunday and Thursday only.
Yeah.
If Jeremy has a proposed resolution, if you're ready for it. It's not here, but Jeremy.
Yeah. Okay, I understand what you're saying, and the response, Councillor Holmes and Devon. I think, when we ask residents to reduce their water use, and we've just had some guests come up from the coast who have had demonstrating some extremely tight water handling, and that involves changing your pattern in the showers. They're actually in Vancouver now sitting a bucket in the shower to pick up the extra water, and they're using that water in other places on their premises. You know, there's reductions all over the place, and brown lawns in Vancouver are, as we all know, are pretty common. It's not a bad thing to be having brown lawns. They recover very quickly. And so I think where we have control, we can reduce park use and so on very readily, and allow you know, the water to not necessarily be used in those areas. So I think some of the suggestions that staff have here are very good. We can all ask questions about where the water goes. If you want to say the water goes into the water park and into the lake, you can ask that question about all the water we use. So, you know, I think we have to demonstrate that we're serious about managing our water and conserving water. And some of the suggestions that have come forward from staff, I think, are excellent. Do you have a motion sort of prepared, something prepared? Yes, please.
That council directs staff to implement increased water conservation actions, including but not limited to Stage 2 water restrictions, public education, and reduced watering of municipally owned property.
Okay, seconder?
I'll move the motion as read.
Okay, thank you. Seconder? Thank you, Councillor Peak. Any further discussion?
Just one thing.
Go ahead.
So stage 2 is the twice a week. It also has a time restriction, is that correct? Before
It's
9 a.m.
before
and
9
after
and
6?
After 6, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so that essentially means that we're looking at the reducing watering of playgrounds and parks and other buildings and doing drip watering and so on. So it really is up to staff to how they manage those locations.
And we can assess, and this will be a, you know, now that we're in this stage, sort of an update will come each council meeting, or
Okay.
or sooner if we need, you know, we'll monitor it as we go.
Okay, thank you.
Sounds good.
Any further comments or discussion? We'll move to the vote, please. We have a seconder, didn't we?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. All in favor? Thank you. The motion is carried. Thank you. Okay, we're moving on to bylaws 14.1, CAO.
This is strictly to implement the fees and charges and busking policy. Busking policy, we didn't add the $25 annual into the fees and charges bylaw. It is noted on here that it will be prorated this year. And it's just for introduction and for second and third reading.
Okay, Councillor Carlson.
I move that council pass the following resolutions. That bylaw number 2015-019, amendment of fees and charges bylaw number 98-001, busking permit, be introduced and read a first and second time by title only.
Do we need to go to the second one as well, or is that two different?
We can do
ones?
it separately.
Okay. For the first part of that, the seconder, please. Councillor Boot. Thank you. Any questions of staff regarding that at all? I think we're just moving ahead. Okay, all in favor? Thank you. None opposed. Motion's carried. Okay, the second phase of that recommendation. Councillor Holmes.
I move that bylaw number 2015-019, amendment of fees and charges bylaw number 98-001, busking permit be read a third time.
Thank you. Seconder, please. Councillor Carlson. No discussion needed, I don't think. Councillor Peak?
Quick question, that
Yes.
the only change to that bylaw is just the addition of the busker charge?
Is that correct? Okay.
Thank you very
Thank
much
you.
for the clarification.
All in favor? Thank you. Motion's carried. So we're moving ahead to 14.2, outstanding OCP amendments.
Right, so 14.2 has 4 bylaws that are just up for adoption. Typically, we may not put a report with bylaws that are up for adoption, but this was a little unusual because these were, first, second, and third readings of these were given in parallel with the old OCP, because, but now to get them, so they were adopted in the old one, they came in between this time, so we were doing them in a parallel. So this is strictly the final step was, which is adoption. And we could do them all in one, and just as a bulk.
Any comment from our manager, Development Services?
Just as the CAO mentioned, we're catching up the current OCP to where the other one was at when we changed over.
Okay, yeah, thank you. So what's council's wish? Any questions at all? This is more or less straightforward. Councillor Peak?
I'll move the resolution.
That's all of them together? You moving them all
Yes, I mean,
together?
we've reviewed this with our
Yes.
select committee,
Yeah.
and we've done our OCP. I think that we could move the resolution.
Okay, so we're handling all the 1, 2, 3, and 4 at once. Seconder, please. Thank you. Councillor Trainer,
Is it necessary that I read or just pass the following resolutions?
as presented. I
As
think it's fine.
presented.
Thank you. All in favor? Thank you. Motion is carried. Okay, we're moving forward to councillor reports, starting with Councillor Trainer.
I don't have anything to report, but I just wanted to take this opportunity to propose something that I've been thinking about lately. Not propose, just discuss it quickly. In Summerland, we always talk about ways that we can better support seniors and youth and families, but we rarely acknowledge the gay and lesbian community. And in several communities across BC and North America, councils are showing support for this group by painting a downtown sidewalk with rainbow colors. And as you all know, rainbow colors are a symbol of pride, which include lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender people. And I believe that painting a crosswalk is a small gesture, but it demonstrates that Summerland embraces everyone. And I always hope for Summerland that we continue to grow into a lively, fun, and safe place that attracts and welcomes all kinds of people, both to live here and visit. And in addition to painting a rainbow sidewalk, it would certainly add some color to our downtown. Several communities across Canada have done this, and the first one was done at Davie and Butte in Vancouver in 2003, and since then they've been popping up in Calgary, Edmonton, Victoria, Port Coquitlam, Princeton, and last week Kelowna. And I posted Kelowna's story on my Facebook page and asked some Summerlanders that follow me what they thought, and so far the feedback was really positive, so I just wanted to throw that out there for consideration, no rush. That's it. That's my report.
Thank you. Councillor Barkle.
I don't have anything of note to report from the last 2 weeks of activity, but I would like to sort of make a kind of an announcement, or people have spoken to me since before the election, and during the election I promised to address this issue of accessibility in our community, and formed sort of an ad hoc committee to review throughout town various problems where there is accessibility problems to public spaces. And if anybody has any particular spot they would like us in our group to address, we will be presenting a report, probably with pictures of various locations and suggestions for improvement. They could email me, and perhaps John would like to make a note in the paper, and I'm going to be putting an ad in the paper about this and suggesting that people email me with places that we would like to look at. And then we'll do up a letter to council and say, you know, please have a look at these locations.
Okay, thank you very much for that. I think we'll need to discuss that a little bit further as well. Okay, thank you. Councillor Boot.
I attended the RDOS meeting August the 6th in Penticton, and this Thursday there is OBWB is putting on an Okanagan Drought Workshop in Kelowna, which runs 12:30 to 5 o'clock at the Capri Hotel. And there also is a meeting of the Water Advisory Committee, of which I'm a council liaison, on Wednesday, August the 12th. And we are going to be discussing, thank you to Mr. Darling for organizing this. The author of Summerland's water plan, the consultant that was hired to do our water plan, is going to be talking to the group about a review of that. And those meetings are open to the public as well. I also was at the market on Sunday, And I noticed a couple of things that I'm really pleased to see. There are more Summerland farmers, and I realize that we're getting further into the harvesting season. But there were more Summerland, very local farmers there, including some organic growers. And I also saw 2 food vendors that have a retail space on Main Street that typically are not open on Sundays, and both of them were open and had a
Yep.
space on the sidewalk. So that was really great to see.
Yeah, that was excellent.
Yeah, that market's great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Councillor Carlson?
I don't have much to report. Cherry harvest is done, so next time I think I'll have something more to report.
Thank you. You've been exceptionally busy, I'm sure. Councillor Holmes?
I'm on Saturday. I had the pleasure of representing the mayor and council at the opening of the annual Summerland Horseshoe Tournament. This was the 59th year of this tournament, so it's and there were participants throughout the Okanagan, all the way from Arizona. Actually, it was a great event, and I think it's events like that one that gives Summerland its character and tradition. So I had the honor of throwing out the first pitch, and I have to tell you, it was pretty good. I scored points, so watch out.
Yeah. Remember, you know that close only counts in horseshoes, eh?
That's right, yes.
Yeah.
I was close.
Yeah.
Again, representing the mayor and council, at the invitation of the mayor of Penticton, I had the honor of being part of the delegation to watch the Peach Festival Parade on the steps of Penticton City Hall. That was also on Saturday, so I had a busy Saturday. The Cultural Plan Task Force, we're fully into our community consultation phase. That'll last throughout the summer into the fall. The questionnaire has been finalized. We've had tremendous response so far, and I hope everybody fills out. And aussi, Monsieur Maire, nous avons le sondage en français si vous préférez. That means we have it in French. We have it in French as well. So.
You caught me off guard there.
So I encourage everybody to fill it out. It should be online soon, and we'll also send out an email list on a Survey Monkey sort of thing. We're working with Jeremy for that. I'd just like to give a little plug to a little bard in the Vineyard coming this week. A performance of 12th Night at Summergate Winery on Thursday and Friday nights. I'm really looking forward to that. That should be fantastic. And finally, just on a slightly more personal note, this week I'm running my final youth tennis camp of the summer. With this camp, I've once again coached more than 100 local youth. That includes summer camps, spring lessons, and in-school programs. So it's I'm quite proud to be among the many coaches that we have here in Summerland who are ensuring our kids are getting out and being active. So.
Thank you very much. Councillor Peak?
I'd like to congratulate Councillor Holmes on the tennis and the involvement with the children. I think that's wonderful for our
I do know
community.
they're wearing them out, though, on a regular basis. He whines about it.
I too have worked with the community cultural plan people, and we have been out on the public beat looking for people to fill out the survey that we have. It is online now. I know that the chamber is interested in being linked so that they can pass that questionnaire along to those that visit their site as well, and that'll create even greater impetus for the things that we're doing. And I want to congratulate the group on the work that they're putting forth with it. I'm also working with the Trail of the Okanagan, and they are continuing to work on expanding that trail on the Fur Brigade, and I know they will be coming to council on August 24th as well. So I look forward to that presentation.
Thank you, Councillor Peak. Okay, now is time frame for the public to make any comments that they would like regarding any municipal issues. Mr. Holler.
Do I have to?
No, we know where you are. Right.
I would like to applaud council and previous councils for the position we're in with our water. This doesn't happen all over the province. And I think that we have to recognize that. I was just in Revelstoke on Thursday and was absolutely shocked to see the Columbia River, so the bottom end of the dam, looking like it was in full flood. I can tell you that there's absolutely no reason for that except for generating power downstream. I think that when, and I would ask that when council members go to the UBCM, that we address the issue of water conservation, not just for ourselves, but for all users, and that includes the big power users. It was incredible. It looked exactly like it was in full flood, the river. So we're all part of that Columbia Basin, and I know that we have obligations as well at this end to flow water into the system, and largely for power generation. So I think that topic has to be brought up as well, that, like we discussed, we're all in this together. We're not a single little community that does a great job when we see maybe less than excellent water stewardship everywhere else. And I want to thank Council for looking at the backyard chicken issue with not only from a human standpoint, but a common sense standpoint. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Haller. Is there anybody else like to make comments to council? I guess not. The media. Ms.
I would
McIver.
like to say that I think that Councillor Kaner has an excellent idea on the rainbow sidewalks, because having an open and welcoming community is very important. And I would like to ask her, you threw it out for discussion, how would you like to see this proceed?
I talked to our CAO last week, and we were talking about maybe discussing it in the next couple of weeks, so.
You mean as a council?
Yeah,
or
I think
as
so.
a-
We had, we didn't really get too far with our discussion. I just thought I would bring it up tonight just to see what others thought, maybe talk to them after about it, but the reason why I chose to talk about it tonight is because a lot of other communities are doing it right now because they celebrated Pride Week in July. So I thought, and then I saw that no one else in the valley had done it yet, and then Kelowna did it last week, so I thought we could be the first, but that will be the second, hopefully.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else, John? Comments, questions? Thank you. Could I have a motion for adjournment, please? Councillor Holmes, Councillor Carlson, all in favor? Thank you very much. Thank you, council.